Fireside Chat here. Welcome to our Vendux Fireside Chat.
Andrew, where's the fire?
Oh, right there. It's coming.
It's coming? Okay.
We were asked for the clicker, yeah. So Henning and I were talking the other day about setting up a meetup group. Which city would we be in LA, San Francisco, New York. So this came together pretty quickly, just over the last couple of weeks. And it's great to see you. We're seeing familiar faces, old friends, new friends. My name is Andrew Miller. I'm one of the partners within the Vendux group. Henning, one of the main co-founders of the group, lives in San Luis Obispo. Really big month for us. After 6 years in business, we just hit 1,000 executives on our roster.
Nice.
So it's a very big deal. The only thing that we do is sales leadership. So just in the same way that companies can go out and find fractional CMOs and CFOs and HR and legal and all kinds of resources, they come to us for sales. The tip of the spear. Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Commercial Officer, sales level individuals, professionals. It takes about 2.5 hours to go through an onboarding process with us. It's pretty rigorous. These are highly vetted executives. And on the demand side, our clients go from around high six figures, $1 million in revenue, to about 60, 70, 80 million in revenue. And no matter the company, no matter the industry that we work in, we see 20 or 30 use cases all the time. It's the same thing, transitioning from a founder-led sales environment to a sales-led sales environment. Fixing top-of-funnel issues, people, launching a new product, launching a new division. Every business thinks that they're unique. They are, but they're also not. We've seen the same things time and time again. Anyway, so welcome. Today's Fireside Chat is about scaling smart, how fractional leaders drive big results for growing companies. I am thrilled, we are thrilled, to have Shelley Perry here with us as a keynote, our guest speaker today. Shelley is a operator, investor, board director, consultant, and she's one of these people who's been there, done that, time and time again. Great perspective with fractionals, hiring fractionals, screening them. So this is going to be a great conversation. And in a second, I'm going to pass my mic over to Shelley and to Henning. Henning, as I said, co-founder of Vendux. He lives in San Luis Obispo, moved from Kansas City where he started the business 6 years ago. And so I'm going to let themselves introduce themselves. We're going to jump right in. 10, 15, 20 minutes of a conversation. Think about your questions, engage, and thanks again for being here. Let's jump right in.
Yeah. Let me kick this off.
Please.
By also saying thank you for coming here. Honor a little bit, drink a little bit, but above everything, make great connections with other people. That's the purpose of in-person. I spent about 25 years of my career as a sales leader. Started out selling chemicals, and I sold software, then services, to different companies, different geographies, different team sizes, company sizes. And about 6 years ago, I built Vendux to be a matchmaker in the fractional sales solution, because I felt that was something that was missing. There was not an organization out there that was matching or placing sales leaders, fractional sales leaders, and had a focus on that particular role. And I felt that sales leaders deserve to be represented and not be mixed in with all the other. That's the reason why. I live in, as you said, San Luis Obispo. Glad to be here, and particularly glad that Shelley volunteered, told to be here as our guest and share her experience. And maybe kick it off with telling how you and I met.
Yes, absolutely. So hi everyone who I have met, Shelley Perry. I worked in finance software for most of my career, but in 2016, I joined Insight Partners as an operating partner, and it was right at the arc of when Insight had started scaling. And I was an operating partner. I was the one who went out to all of the companies that were in trouble and no one knew exactly what was wrong with them. And I had to make friends with the CEO and figure out was it a go-to-market issue, was it a product issue, was it a marketing issue, was it an investment thesis issue, all of the above, talent issue. And as part of that, I had to endear myself to the CEOs, and often I was diagnosing the problem and then referring how they could fill these positions. And often I'm a huge, huge fan of the fractional model for lots of different reasons, but there is a very specific time and place for fractionals. And it was very hard to find as Insight started to grow and grow and grow and grow. It was very hard to find the fractionals that could meet the growing demand of the companies. And I will also say that I am a ScaleUp addict. I will say just a little bit of context. It's like I worked in large corporations. I worked in the early stage of startups, and I just like Goldilocks was like I really love the ScaleUp stage because I do think it is unique. I think there's a lot of value to be made. But there is very specific requirements to be successful as a scale-up during, to be successful during the scale-up stage of growth. It's a mix of pragmatism and roll up your sleeves and all of these different things. And as we were trying to find some of the solutions, I met Henning, right? I think it was in the beginning part of building it. And so I was constantly looking for people who were qualified, and I am very particular about who I refer and when. So I started vetting hunting during the Insight, and then I left Insight in 2020, late in 2020 after the pandemic, just because I wanted to work a few less hours. I still today, I step in as CEO. In some cases, I work with a lot of Insight companies. I also work with a lot of investment firms. But mostly what I cater to is scale-up CEOs who are not from the Bay Area because they just don't understand their unwritten rules. I develop relationships with them and I help them understand how they can scale their company, the rules, the unwritten rules. I help them with talent, and often that it includes bringing in fractional executives for very specific purposes. And so I think Henning we grew together, right? And so whenever I need a sales person of some type, he's my first call. Now we have lots of heated arguments, discussions, because if any of you know, if you are a CEO yourself or a fractional going into these companies, you got one shot. You've got one shot, not only with the CEO, you've got one shot for them to even buy into the model of a fractional. And so I'm very, very specific and vet who I introduce to the CEOs. Are very scared of hiring executives in the first place when they're scaling, let alone fractional. So long way to say that. This morning it was a speed round. I did another something else, but today add a little bit of context. That's me.
Great, wonderful. So I'm going to kick off with the first question. I want you to put on your operator hat, your CEO hat. What makes a fractional a great fit, and when? And what are the ingredients necessary to help a fractional be successful?
So I'm going to say that the thing about a fractional is there has to be a tipping point, a need, right? It is a heightened need. Whether somebody quit unexpectedly, whether the board is breathing down their neck. I mean, there's a whole list of things, but ultimately when a fractional is is when there is this pent up need, and it's at that moment in time. And at that moment, you also have to bring someone in because they're not going to wait till you finish something else. But there is some tipping point that the CEO, and I specialize in really direct reports to the CEO, and I know that Medix has sometimes there's fractionals that report to a functional leader, I personally, and when I talk, it's because I'm talking about from the CEO perspective. And so there's those tipping points. And I think that the biggest issue that I see with fractionals when they're talking to the CEO is that they talk to them like their perspective, why you need me, as opposed to why the CEO needs you, right? Because you're talking about why you're so great and why they need you, but you're not putting it, I don't say you guys, but what happens is they don't put it in the terms that the CEO needs. And often that CEO is a first-time CEO. The reason they need a fractional is because they do not have a network of people who they can call to kind of fill roles, and they don't understand all the jargon. And so if you are a true C-suite level, you have to not speak like in all of the jargon that's very specific to a functional area. But if you then are being hired by a C-suite functional lead, you need to speak the jargon. And the biggest issue I see is when they don't make that transition. They don't understand that that's not the way you do it, right? So hopefully that helps.
So when a fractional executive meets the CEO for the first time, what do you see ideally happening?
So if I'm introducing them, I've had 3 calls with them already. Because I'm vetting them, or I'm telling them like, this is what they care about, don't say that. I actually will do mock interviews because it's that important. Now understand, when I'm working with a CEO, I probably invested in that company, so I'm not just trying to get the person in there. I actually want the company to be successful, and I want that CEO to hire someone because they need help. So I will vet them, vet's the wrong word, I will help prep them before they get on the call, and I will tell them the words, don't say that, say this, right? And often what I'm doing is I'm not telling them, I'm not leading the witness, I'm trying to tell them like, you are going to make that CEO feel stupid because they do not understand the words you are saying, right? So.
Sounds, by the way, very much like what we're doing. We're talking
Yes.
to our executives, so as we collaborate, they'll have to go through 5 or 6 prep interviews first before they actually.
That's why I call him first. So I have less meetings I have to have, yeah.
Earlier on, you said there is a time and a place for a fractional. One of the criteria that I picked up earlier is you said there has to be an urgency, there has to be a need, something that the CEO wants to fix. What else do you see has to be in place for fractional executives to be successful?
So I think that each fractional individual has unique capabilities, right? We all have unique experiences that we bring to the table, and I think I'm going to turn it around and say, if you are going to be a fractional executive, you kind of have to be very clear on what you can be successful in. I can't do it if it's less than 50% of the time, if they don't have this, and this in place, and vice versa. But the biggest thing that I think fractionals, like especially new fractionals, do is they make a lot of assumptions based on like maybe they've been, whatever the functional leader, maybe they've been a CRO or a CFO or whatever it is once or twice, and they think every model is just like those 2 things, when the reality is that's not the case. And so they have to like go in with bravado, but also like not go in and make all of the assumptions in this line. So I don't know if I answered that, but like, yeah.
I mean, it is a sales job.
It's a sales job. It is absolutely a sales job.
But it is also a sales job from both sides.
It's a sales job from both
Because
sides.
the CEO also has to sell his company and the problems he's having, whether the executive wants to take that on.
I agree with you, but I don't agree with you, and I guess it's because a lot of times when I'm going in, because I am a ScaleUp addict, I really just love that stage. And often when I'm going in, it's because they've gotten the first round of institutional funding. And that CEO thinks like in the investment ecosystem, the CEOs, the founder CEOs are the top of the food chain because they are the ones who took the risk and basically started the entire investment cycle. So in the investment world, founder CEOs are and there's founders and there's CEOs, but a founder who is becoming a CEO when it's scaling are the top of the food chain and quite have big egos. So often it's the fractional who has to prove themselves and not the other way around. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, I'm just saying the investment ecosystem values founder CEOs over any other role. So most of the time they don't feel like they have to sell. Now there is an exception to that. If you are highly sought after, if you are a fractional that is highly sought after, and they would love to hire you full time, but you say I will not, and they want a little bit of your time, then they're selling you. But in most cases, it's not. It's you're selling to the CEO.
In your world, what have you seen the background of those founders to be? Do they come with experience in building sales teams and scaling businesses?
No, they do not come with any experience, but they have big egos. And the minute you start using very specific jargon that sounds like the Peanuts cartoons, wah, 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 right? They will not ask you questions about it. That you have just backed them in a corner, and they don't like you because you backed them in a corner. So you really have to talk to them in plain English and no buzzwords. But on the flip side, if you're interviewing for a fractional role with a functional leader, CRO, CMO, CFO, they need the buzzwords. So you have to like really understand where you're going in. But most of the CEOs that need fractionals are first-time CEOs. They're first-time CEOs, and they do not want to feel stupid. When you go at them with all of your frameworks and everything you would sell to the functional leader and your thing, they're like, I don't understand what that person just said. Like, no.
This morning, we both happened to be on a virtual panel around a very similar subject. One of the questions that was asked was about the qualifications and what qualifies a fractional executive for a particular function. We talked this morning about a lot of different things. But from your vantage point, what is the most important, maybe the three most important qualities that a fractional executive should bring to the table when they come to the
So I'm going to qualify that my responses are I work with the CEOs, and so I am the fractionals that I place are the ones that are reporting directly to the CEOs. So they are fractional C-suite roles. Executive sometimes means a lot of different things, but I'm basically referring people who are acting like a part-time C-suite role, which means direct to the CEO. I'd have different answers if it wasn't that, so I just want to qualify my answer. So answer the question, you want to know what makes it good? Okay, so what makes it good? You've already had the title. You have to have the title already. You're not going to hire or refer anyone who has not held the title. And guess what? You probably have to hold the title 2 or 3 times, not just once. I think during the Great Resignation period, during the big boom, people were accelerated pretty fast. But in general, most seasoned fractionals have done the role a few times, and ultimately with a few different models, right? Maybe a marketplace, maybe this, like they haven't done the same thing. And if they have done the same thing, then I'll refer them to that particular model. So they have to have done it, but they can't just have the title, they had to have success. And what does success mean? Success might mean a round of funding, it might mean an exit. Whatever it is, it's not the number of people you've managed or the budget, it's the success that you've achieved. And the ability to basically, talk about things, but not talk about frameworks and that kind of thing. The biggest other thing is that they have to have executive presence and gravitas, right? You gotta listen and respond and kind of understand that person is often feels like they're being backed in a corner when you're spitting out and they're like, I built a company and I got all these millions, so what are you telling me all this da-da-da-da? You didn't start a company, I don't have that. So they have to be able to read the room, that kind of thing. And then the last one is that they have to understand that no one, not a single person. Now, I was at Insight Partners, and the founders did not have to pay me for my help, and I still had to earn my keep. I had an Insight badge, I was an Insight Partner, I have a lot of credentials, But every single time you gotta earn the stripes for every person. You come with nothing, basically, because these people do not have a network. That's why they're hiring a fractional that they don't know, because most seasoned CEOs have a list of people that they're gonna hire. So you gotta earn your stripes. You gotta go in understanding that you gotta earn your stripes every time.
Wonderful. Andrew, do we want to take a few questions here?
I love questions.
Just, yeah, please.
Yeah, I have a question. So thoughts on not having to wait until the first issues come up and preemptively first sales hire being fractional while they find the right go-to-market mix on companies versus waiting until the founders tried it and then maybe didn't get enough traction and then bringing it up.
Before, when capital was cheap, maybe they would have done it, but today it's like the best salesperson for a early stage company is always going to be the founder because they have the passion, right? And in the end, like you're not really going to preempt it if you also want a rate that they're going to pay you. And often, so the most times that I see fractionals come in is when they get first time institutional funding. They have it, they understand like what it is, and this is specific also to ScaleUp. So I think trying to preempt it is probably not a good fit. Like you could try, but I don't know that it would work out that well. They have to be ready. I'm telling you. And even when they're ready, they're oftentimes they're doing it because the board told them, or like I've developed a relationship with them and they trust me a lot. And I say, you really need to do this. The example I always use is this. I love the ocean. I absolutely love the ocean. And if you have never been, we're sitting in San Francisco, so all of you have been to the ocean. But if you try to describe the ocean to someone, and they have never been to the ocean, they will get excited about the passion that you bring and how you talk about it, but they can never really understand and experience it. So often they're doing it and they're scared because they're doing it because they trust you and the passion that you have. But ultimately, you have to understand a founder CEO's biggest issue is letting go and hiring and wasting money. Fractional is fractional, but I will say that most fractionals are also internal. Because if you're helping during the scale-up stage, if you're successful, they're going to need somebody full-time. So the reality is that in the early to mid stages of scale-up, and even more so now with funding kind of slowing down, it is a part-time. It could be 25%, it could be 50%. The issue is that it's not just Monday. It's like, it might be certain things. But ultimately, you have to create the conditions of when, and I mean fractional part-time. So they need you to kind of guide in a really good scenario, specifically for sales, but other ones as well as this. Most founders they have their ride or die person, right? So during the time that they were growing, they have their ride or die person who is their jack of all trades or Jill of all trades, and this person will do anything for them, and they are tied to them. And sometimes that person identifies as a sales leader, and sometimes they identify as a CFO or an engineer, but either way they play a lot of hats. And the very way that you can endear yourself to preempt is to say, I am a fractional executive and I am going to make your ride or die person successful. Now, you and I both know there's probably no way to make that person successful, but you're going to go in, you're going to try, you're going to show what good looks like. And most founders are very smart and make decisions, and they will see that this person isn't going to make it, but you can't tell them that. You have to kind of show. So, I forgot where I was going with that, but in the end, it's you have to speak to them and address something that they care about. And a really good scenario for a fractional in an early stage scale up is to say, I am going to make the ride or die person into the C-suite they want to be. Right? You're there to enable them. And that allows you to also be part-time. Right? Because in the end, they're the ones running down in the company. You're able to kind of find a way to use other resources. I would also say that if you're going to be a fractional in an earlier stage scale up, you better have a virtual assistant because otherwise you're going to be too expensive.
Better have a what? Can you repeat that?
A virtual assistant.
Oh yeah, VA.
Right? Because otherwise, if you're trying to hang your shingle and be a virtual and you're trying to do all of that stuff, they're paying you a whole lot of dollars to do stuff that a virtual assistant could do. So if you're going to get serious about doing maybe 2 or 3 at a time, you better have your own virtual assistant and just bundle it into your own cost.
I think there's
Yes.
a question here first.
So I'm a startup founder, Planet Tech, and not my first startup. But yes, people say, a lot of acronyms and they assume that we know what they mean. So I'm completely turned off people talking acronyms.
Say it louder.
Yeah.
Say it
No
louder.
acronyms. No acronyms.
So
That's
no
that's one
NDR,
thing.
NRR in the room.
The other thing is, and excuse my, pardon my ignorance, but what is the difference between a fractional person and a consultant?
That was my question.
Yeah, so we had a debate this morning, but or we had it came up in something we were doing this morning. But I would say this: it's a consultant is a fractional is like if you were gonna hire whatever that C-suite role is, right? They don't need to have everything spelled out. They don't come and say, here's everything, right? Here's the playbook, here's what I'm gonna deliver. They kind of like outline what they're going to do, and they actually take responsibility through influence for employees. Like they're actually like helping you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they understand like come what may, right? And they're gonna talk to you and they're gonna tell you like this went off. A consultant should be like packaging the SOW, the deliverable, they don't go off, and if there's gonna be change orders. So the best way that I can say it is like it's really a part-time executive, and in the end, any fractional executive that's coming in and says this is exactly what I'm gonna do, they're probably not a fractional executive, they're a consultant. And there's nothing wrong, sometimes you need consultants, but a fractional executive should be making your life better. And if they're not making your life better, bad fractional, or they're a consultant. Because I kind of think of it as a better way is like from a founder perspective is a consultant is you've already diagnosed the problem and you're hiring someone to fix the problem, right? I have a plumbing issue, I call a plumber to fix the leak in the sink. I've already diagnosed it. A fractional executive to be like, I don't understand why we're not growing. Okay, so like that is the difference. Now it's a very, very hard role to do for a part-time, right? So they also have to vet the conditions that allows them to be part-time. Doesn't mean you don't need a consultant, sometimes that's all you need, right? But that's the difference is that if they are not infinitely making your life better by taking things off of you, still communicating, they're probably not a fractional executive, they're a consultant.
A really simple formula is if you want somebody's brain, you hire a consultant. If you want somebody's brain in their hands, you hire a fractional.
And more proactive.
Yes.
Active. They not only identify a problem, but they fix it.
And I'll give you one more just from a CEO perspective. They're not afraid to debate with you. A consultant will not debate with you.
I think the next question.
Yeah, so it's a follow-on to this, and that is, I've actually fired clients because I came on as a fractional, yet they thought I was a consultant.
Absolutely.
And my hourly, and what I apportioned for them, all of a sudden grew so big that I was just like, you're a business killer, and I'm not interested, right? And so I'm just wondering if, based on this discourse and what you just asked, I think it's amazing. If you have a little bit of advice for how we can educate some of these people a little bit more softly than say, this is what I expect, right?
I think that when fractionals first start, in the first year or whatever, when they're first starting, they'll take anything and figure out how to make it work. And I would say that if you're going to continue to be a fractional, you need to learn je ne sais quoi or executive presence and learn how to vet. So often, people will call me for different reasons, and I will go, look, I'll have a 30-minute conversation with you, and I promise you, you're going to learn something during that conversation. but I'm gonna tell you, like first of all, I'm vetting to see if the culture like works. But ultimately, it's like I'm gonna help you in that 30 minutes. We're gonna learn about each other, and I'm gonna refer you to somebody if I'm not the right one. So I think it's the onus is also on the fractional to kind of understand. And I would say you might have been close to your gift when you first started out. You kind of take it. You take anything, but you have to start vetting it. And I think when you part of the reason that I like working with Henning so much in this company is because I can make a call and kind of do it, and he's vetted them. But when you're on your own or hanging a shingle, like you have to. The onus is really on the other person to. If you're going to hang a shingle and do that, you've got to learn how to vet.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm a tough love kind of person, though. You haven't picked that up. Yeah.
I wanted to piece together what we just talked about with this question. Have you ever seen it such that someone is hired to fix a plumbing problem as a consultant, but then is either asked to or positions themselves as a fractional because of the way they're influencing and thinking broader?
So, have I ever seen someone? So, I'm going to answer that in two different ways. Number one, if I'm partnering with the CEO and helping them or I'm on the board, I will have vetted that far before they got there, number one. Number two, I'm going to say this in the nicest way. A true fractional, an experienced fractional wouldn't take a consulting role. So what I see more is that the fractional comes in and then they need a consultant, and a very good fractional will be like, I will refer you. I'm not going to do that work. It's going to be too expensive, but I will refer you to either someone you should hire. This is the structure of the organization, or here's another consulting firm that does that.
I'll take a third angle, a third answer to the question, which is you want to vet it up front. And the way to vet it is not to say, to ask the CEO, do you want me as a consultant or as a fractional executive?
They don't know.
But you want to, it's about labels.
Yeah.
Acronyms. Ask them what specifically they want you to do. What tasks, what goals do they want you to accomplish? What is in place, what exists, what isn't there? What needs to be created? Those are the questions that really drive out, beyond any title or any label, what this role is about. I mean, I've had inquiries for fractional CROs, and then I find out that there is no marketing team, there is no customer success team, there is no sales team. So basically, they want a salesperson.
Yeah.
So you have to ask a lot of questions to vet it out, and beyond labels, beyond that.
And I'd also say when you're vetting it, you can, and you can help me with this because you're CEO in this situation, is that you can't be like, do you want a consultant, do you want this? And you also can't be like taking an order and like, you're not like the calling customer success and when you're calling somewhere and they're like, I turned the computer off, all right? You're waiting for them to go through the list. It's you have to create an experience with that person when you're talking to them and you're educating. Because ultimately, they might just be thinking about it, right? Because they're feeling a slight pain, but it's not a big enough pain for them to like you or do it. But like 3 months down the road, some shit hit the fan, excuse my language, and they remember the experience they had with you, right? So like there's a fractional executive is working for a CEO, taking the pain off and represent that way.
Well done, awesome. Thank you. Thank you to all. Really great questions, very engaging. I think I've seen some of you on our monthly webinars. We do run monthly webinars, and often the themes are similar to this in one form or another, and lots of engagement. So please feel free to join on one or more of our monthly webinars. We have conversations like this every single day, numerous times per day, with CEOs, with founders, with business owners and entrepreneurs who have 5, 10, 15 different issues that they need to be solved, So great question, so real. So thank you for that.
We get overwhelmed.
Yes.
So many
So
First of
we're,
all, I thank you for saying that, by the way, and for all the fractionals in the room. The next time you're going to go give a pitch, feed it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to say, if I was a founder, would this make any sense?
so we
It's
are.
not you, it's them. If they're trying to sell to you, just so you know.
So we're here for another hour or so. Please have some food, have some drinks,